And welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sarah, and today I have you out in my garden. I wanted to do a garden tour to show you guys what my garden is like in the spring, and then hopefully late summer or fall or at some point I can come back and show you guys how things grew, how things did, because I'm trying some new things this year, and hopefully it can inspire you to try things or to start gardening at all or whatever. But sorry for the sunglasses, it's super bright, and instead of squinting at you, I'm just gonna wear the sunglasses. Also, I'm wearing my Franken pants that I showed patching in a recent video. If you have work pants that are blowing out in the knees, check that video out. Get your pants fixed up so you can wear them in the garden again. So let's get this garden tour started, and I'm just going to show you stuff I'm trying, and some of this stuff I've seen other people do, some of it not, and well, I don't know. This is how I garden. It's like, oh, I'll try this, I'll try that, I'll try that, and we'll see how it goes. So here's a quick overview for those of you who want a TikTok garden tour. I'm going to flip the camera around and show you what I have very quickly, and then I'll turn it back around and I will tell you why I'm doing what I'm doing and what's going on. So here's the quick version. Alright, so we have tomatoes, onions, and kale. The kale is from last year. They just came up on their own. Can't see it very well, but I have tomatoes growing along these posts. I'm trying to cram as much in as possible. Here's garlic. I'm working on potatoes here. I've been doing succession planting. Here's my brassicas. Here's squashes and beans along the fence line. More squashes and beans, kale that came up from last year. Eggplant. Peppers, cucumber, strawberries, squash, and flowers. Again, beans along the fence line. And then here's bush beans and flowers, some garlic that I missed last year that came back up. And this line is raspberries, and then I started a lot of flowers, and so I've interplanted a lot of flowers. And then over here I have blueberry bushes with some flowers. So there's the quick garden tour. Now back to the detailed version. Alright, so now back at this end of the garden, I'm going to tell you the whys, the whats, and the what's going on. So I'm trying to use what I have. I've seen people for their tomatoes, because I have tomatoes planted in these 4 rows here. I've seen people put like a what is that called? Rebar, and bend it so that strings could be coming down for the tomatoes to grow up, because most tomatoes are kind of a viney. They're indeterminate, so they keep growing. Determinate ones are like bushes. They're determined how tall they get. But I had this fencing. My brother didn't need it anymore, and he offered it to me with the post. And so I've also seen people use cattle panels for arched things. This isn't quite as strong as cattle panels. So anyway, I have this fencing, and I'm going to try this year, because I've tried the post with string going across to weave the tomato plants up, and I don't feel like that held very well. The string I used would sag, and it was a lot of work, and I didn't want to try that this year since I had this fencing. Now I went to the hardware store and I saw at how much a roll of this cost, and I would not recommend going out and buying it for your garden if you don't already have it, because it's not cheap. But obviously everyone's in different places. If you just have the finances and you want to go all out, go all out. But if you're trying to make this an affordable place to get food for your family and not make your food bill go sky high because you're spending it all on the garden, figuring out how to use what you have, I think, is vital. So I am trying to cram as much in my garden as I can. I have about 16 rows that are about 2.5 feet wide each. This is called market gardening, because for harvesting for market you need quick and easy access for harvesting. And so it's about 2.5 foot row wide, and they're about 40 feet long. So not all of them are 40 feet though, because I have this shade back here, and the back half of the garden just doesn't grow much. So that's where my compost and mulch piles and stuff have landed. So I don't know, it's a lot of square footage of garden, and yet with all of this garden I don't have enough space. I couldn't grow corn this year, and there were some other things. I have, what do I have? 1, 2, 3, or 4 rows for beans, and I was like, I could use a few more because I didn't even plant all the bean varieties I wanted. So anyway, I need a bigger garden, but so because of that, I am jamming as much things as I can into a small space. So here with the rows with my tomatoes, I looked up companion planting to figure out what grows okay with tomatoes. Either it helps or at least doesn't hurt. And onion is one of the things that is okay. So I have along the row here a bunch of onions that I planted on both sides of this row, and then on this row I have onions as well. Now, I planted kale here last year, and the kale came back. It looked like, I thought it died, but it came back. And so I've let it go. That's what all these yellow flowers are. It's kale gone to seed. I was even thinking today that I would cut it out because I do think it is shading my tomato plants some, and then they're not getting the sun that they need to really grow and thrive and produce. But it's flowering, and the flowers attract pollinators. So I think I'm going to leave it for right now. Let them go to seed. I don't need this much kale seed. That is a lot. So I might let it bloom, and then I might cut it back so the tomatoes can grow, and make sure I have some kale that's going to seed so I can save it to plant in the fall. So that's what I have going on in these rows. I have a cool plant called lychee tomato. If you've had a lychee fruit, oh, it's actually hurts. So it's like a weed as far as pain, but I have them planted on this row. I'm interested to see what it's like. I've never had one. I saw it in the seed catalog and thought, I need to grow that. So I've got that. I have here this purpley flower is daikon radish, which is a very large, like almost a burny, bitter radish. I don't care for regular radish, but the daikon radish, if you ferment it, oh, it's so good. It's got like that heat and that burn. It's so good. But in early May, we had a week of 80-degree weather, and it sent all my cold weather crops to seed. My lettuces are all bitter, which is a real bummer. I mean, I love the warm weather, but not if it ruins my crop. But whatever, we'll try again in the fall. So the daikons all went to seed. I won't get radishes this spring, but I'll try again in the fall. But they're interplanted with the tomatoes here too. I think they get along okay. So I have 4 rows, half rows. So they're probably about 20-foot rows of tomatoes. And I planted about half of them that I started, but that's fine. I'll give away the rest and let others grow. And then if some don't make it, I can replace them. But along this row, I have some celery. That's these little guys here. And flowers. Marigolds are really good to help keep pests down on tomatoes. So I have those interplanted. I tried to pick flowers. I have some flowers that help deter bugs, and then some I just really like them. I actually only bought a few plant seeds for vegetation, and I mostly bought flowers this year because I have so many seeds already. I do have carrot here at the end of this row, and carrot's really finicky. It has to have constant moisture to germinate the seed for like 2 weeks or something, and they're very finicky. So I've tried to baby them before and really try to make sure that they came up, and then one year I grew a bunch and then we just never ate them, and then they froze in the ground all winter, and I was like, well, that's silly. So I did a small patch and I just put them in and didn't bother, and what grew, and I have some. The rest is weeds, so you're probably like, I don't see any. But behind the carrots, these are 2 rows of garlic, and this is really exciting because 2 years ago I started with 5 bulbs of garlic cloves, and I planted them and harvested. You plant them in the fall, like October, at least here in Ohio, and then in July, when the first stalks, leaves at the bottom start to die, it's time to harvest. So I harvested those and saved some back and planted that fall, And then last year, then I had an even bigger harvest. And this year, I mean, look at that. That is huge. So what I did is when garlic grows, it sends up this stalk in the center and it develops like a pod and it has a bunch of seeds in it. So you can start garlic from the seeds, which take 2 years to do, or you can harvest your garlic and keep a clove and plant the clove, and that clove is harvestable the next summer. The seed takes 2 years to get to a clove, so, or a bulb. So let's see if you can, I don't know if you can tell, but the back row here is all very small. That's from seeds that I started from the seed pod up at the top. I started these from that, and I just sprinkled them all in because there were a ton. And then over here, I'm trying to remember. I don't think I planted much garlic from a clove. I think these are mostly from the seeds that I started the year before. I have a ton, so I'm hoping, my goal is to get to growing enough garlic for our family for 1 year. So this row is all to be harvested and eaten and saved. This row, this top half here that's thicker, like has bigger leaves, should be harvestable this year. Where the cat is laying, I keep yelling at these guys, stop doing this. I'm bending my garlic. This smaller stuff will need to grow again through this coming winter, and then I should be able to harvest bulbs of garlic. I was told you're supposed to harvest it in July, let it dry out, and then plant it again back in October. That's a lot of work. And I have garlic over there that it didn't get harvested, it got missed, and it's growing the same, so maybe I can leave it. But I need to spread it out, so I will actually have to harvest it because they need more space than that, because that's tight together. And I tried this year planting them pretty close. It's hard to tell with the grass. Here, let's look over here. So they're pretty close together, but if a bulb is only so big, I think they still have enough room. I'm trying to squeeze as much in as I can for 2 reasons. One, to get more production, but the other reason is if you can put stuff tightly together and the sun doesn't reach the soil, there's less chance for weeds. And I'm doing organic, so I'm not doing pesticides and all that stuff. Weeds are probably one of the top 2 problems I have. The other is bugs. All right, so this row here, I am trying this year something new, doing succession planting of potatoes. In the past, I've just dug a row and put the potatoes in and filled it in, and it's been an okay harvest. But I'm trying to do more potatoes, and with succession planting, I'm going to see if I can harvest the first ones at one point, maybe a few weeks later the next. They're anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks apart in the planting. You can see these here at the front here are much larger, and then as we go down the row, they're smaller. And then here I just planted back here. Just planted some today, so there's not even any sprouts left. So I still have a few more to plant, but I'm also, because this row especially had really rough soil, I have clay soil, and this is going to be my 4th summer gardening, and I've really been working to build up the soil. I was just watching another YouTube video, Roots and Refuge, if you haven't checked it out, she's a really cool lady. But she was saying, and I've been hearing this, that I know this, the soil is the life. The soil is where your plants get, yes, they get the sun gives them energy, but the soil is where they get their nutrients and their water. And so healthy soil life is so vital. And she was saying that if you use things like Miracle-Gro, it actually harms the soil as far as the biodiversity and the life there. And so then the soil's not healthy, so then your plants can look good, but eventually they're really not healthy, and it can cause more pest problems, because an unhealthy plant sends out this signal to bugs saying, I'm struggling, I'm not good, and bugs come to eat them. Why? I don't know, but I'm sure there's a biblical correlation in life about unhealthy plants and being attacked. But anyway, but the soil is so vital. And so I've been working on composting for this soil with the potatoes. I brought in, my kids have a sandbox I don't play in much, so I've been taking the sand for myself and adding it to the soil and adding compost so that the soil's not so thick, in hopes that my potatoes will be able to spread out and really grow and not be stunted by the I mean, if you're packed in there and you're trying to grow, you're not going to grow well. But if the soil's loose, you're going to send out roots, you're going to grow and flourish. So I'm hoping to accomplish two things in this potato row. One, get a lot of potatoes. I'm also planting them really close. I'm going to try it. I'm planting them way closer together than you're supposed to, but I'm going to try it. But then also, because I'm not going to plant potatoes here again, you want to rotate your crops. You want to move where you plant your squashes. You want to move where you plant your tomatoes so that those bugs that would, put their larvae in the soil can come up the next year and that plant's not there. It's like, oh, I have no food, and they have to go off and find it somewhere else or die or something. So hopefully this will make my this row amazing, because I'm digging down and piling the dirt up here, which this row is supposed to be for sweet potatoes, but my sweet potatoes aren't ready to plant yet, even though it's time to plant them. Anyway, so this is like the worst looking part of the garden because it's still pretty weedy. I don't know. Anyway, I've spent at least 6 weeks coming out multiple days a week, pulling weeds and planting. So this row here is my brassica row. So it's, I've got lettuces here. Hi Milo. So this row here has lettuces and what is this? Broccoli. And the lettuce is already, as you can see here, bolting. We had one salad and it was bitter. My kids are such sweeties. We made them eat it, and they did. And they're just such a blessing. So that's a bummer though. I didn't get any harvest really off of this lettuce, and because they went bitter because it got hot. I do have this big old flower there, but anyway, I have trying to catch it here, guys. Ugh, this is hard. All right, where do we go? So we have broccoli. I tried to plant, I cannot see with these sunglasses on. I tried to plant where are we? Here we are. Purple cabbage. It's not doing very good, but we'll see and let it keep growing. Here I have Dutch cabbage. This was supposed to be a really big cabbage. And interplanted with that is kale, because I don't want any I want as little soil available as possible. That's why with the broccoli over there, I planted the lettuce with it to try to fill in the gaps, because broccoli will eventually fill up more so, but I want the soil to be covered as much as possible. I don't know what to do now that the lettuce is no good. I thought about cutting it out, but at least it covers the soil for now, so I'm going to let it stay. After I have my kale that I did plant this year versus all the other kale that's going to seed that I planted last year, this right here, the bright green, is like it's a Chinese cabbage. I'm going to go with Napa cabbage. That's what it kind of looks like. And then I've got collard greens, which are almost ready to start harvesting off of, and they just keep regrowing all summer, which is so nice. And then a little bit more kale, and then I'm trying Brussels sprouts. I have tried them once and with no success, so we will see how that goes. All right, let me show you what else we've got. So the next rows are the beans and squash rows. Now, I did a video on the Three Sisters and how it worked with growing corn and then letting the beans grow up the corn, and then the squash at the bottom to be the ground cover to kind of, because when you have a lot of foliage, you also help hold in moisture, and then your plants don't dry out because the soil is covered and protected. So these two rows here, I did a different type of fencing because I only had so much of that real fencing. This is that deer fencing that is like 10 feet tall or something ridiculous. Maybe it's 8 feet tall. Anyway, it's just plastic, but I had it because in the beginning when I first gardened, I put a fence around to keep, I don't remember what, out. But I've not had a problem with deer really. They've walked through my garden and not hurt it, and so Lord, please keep that way. Bless my garden. But anyway, I wanted to use this and see about growing my beans. Let's see if you can see the row here. So yeah, you can see that little row shooting up of beans that are going to grow up. So I grew 5 different types of beans, and these are just pole beans, green beans. I hope to can. I've actually never pressure canned, so that'll be fun. And then this side is squashes. And then I interplanted flowers for pollinators and just to help fill in the spaces while the squash grows. The biggest problem I have with squash is the squash bug beetle, and they just decimate my squashes. And I did plant squash here last year because I have strawberries over here, and strawberries don't like certain plants, so I was trying to keep them away. And it can get complicated to rotate your crops because some stuff doesn't like each other and you need to keep them away from them, but then there's only so many places you can move stuff. So we're gonna see how this goes. I did start to have flowers coming back from last year. So like right here, these little guys are borage that reseeded themselves, which I did not plant any borage this year, so that's nice. That's a good good bug repellent and beneficial insect plant to grow. Alright, so this is the same. This row here is peppers, and I grew all kinds of weird peppers. Like, I think I have 1 bell pepper plant. Maybe I bought 2 from the neighbor because none came up. But these are all weird Italian peppers, purple peppers, Peruvian peppers. Like, I don't know. It'll be fun to see what grows. And then at the far end of this row, I had cut up some of my fencing for different projects or whatever, so this didn't have a full row, I think. I don't remember. Anyway, at the end there I have eggplant, and my eggplant did terrible last year. Didn't produce anything, so I'm hopeful for this year. Now to my strawberries I was talking about. 2 whole rows. Guys, this is so awesome. I think I've said it in another video, but that middle section there where it's really thick is where my strawberry patch started. 5 plants 2 springs ago. So the first year I planted, I didn't get any harvest. They just started to establish themselves. Last summer, I had that big thick part was pretty much what I had. That big thick part. This extension part here and that whole second row there was not established. They were starting to start last summer. So now I have 2 whole rows. I have pulled out to clear out this middle row, golly, probably 100 strawberry plants to make a path in the middle so we could harvest and pick strawberries. And they're starting to turn. Let me find one. Oh, here we go. Look at that. So that little guy in 2 days will probably be ready to pick. And there's just so many. So many. It's a good thing my kids like strawberries because I think they'll be willing to help harvest those. Alright, almost done here. This row, here's some more kale. No, that's actually broccoli that didn't die. Sorry, all up in my face. This is broccoli that didn't die last year that survived and is going to seed. But this row I have, I don't think I planted anything right here actually. I need to fill that in. But the rest of it is the rest of the squash plants that I had started. I also planted, loofah gourd. We'll see if that works. And then again, along the fence line, more beans. I think these are azuki beans. Azuki. I think I did half and half something, I don't remember. And then this row, here's some garlic. I mean, look at all that. I harvested those garlics, and all of those got left. Like, I missed all of those. So the rest of this row, I planted bush beans. So there's soybean and, what was the other one? Maybe that was the azuki bean. I think the azuki was a bush bean. Anyway, I've got more beans, and then I put flowers in the middle. And so then this final row here, I have okra here at the end. We don't like okra, but I hear it's really good for your stomachs, and our family has stomach things that we need to take care of. So I thought, well, we don't like it, but fine, we need to eat it. And then this final row is red raspberry, which I started. You see that clump back here? I'll just walk over there. That big clump was one start 2 springs ago. So last year I got some off of this, but not a ton. But this one start has, I have a bug climbing on my glasses, don't I? It's on the inside. Go away, bug. Hang on. I can't talk to you and have a bug climbing. It won't go away. Oh my goodness. I think I killed it. Sorry, bug. Okay. What was I saying? Oh yes. I mean, look at all these. There's gonna be so many raspberries, and this raspberry plant bears raspberries twice, so they're gonna do spring and fall. Anyway, I have starts now going down the whole row, almost all the way. It ends at that 3rd post. I didn't go all the way yet because I planted all that okra there. But in this fall, I can. But I mean, already look, these guys send out shoots like none other. So this is kind of in the path, and that one. So I will have red raspberries, and then I have blueberry bushes that are like a little stick. Like you can't even see it, but it's in there. I have 2 that survived out of the 4 I planted last year, and hopefully they'll thrive. And then my fruit trees out here in the front yard, they are 3 years old, 2.5 years old, and I had one apple off this front tree, and then I had like 3 or 4 peaches on this one, but none of them were good. We didn't eat them. Anyway, so I think they're just still young. I had 1 blossom on 1 tree this year, so I don't think I'm getting any fruit this year, but apparently you can over fertilize and over prune, and that will cause them to just focus on growing branches and not fruit. So I'm gonna leave them alone, see if they can catch up to whatever. I've only pruned them once, and I have never fertilized since I planted them, so we'll see. All right, so that is my garden. I didn't mention this. So one thing I'm trying with my garden is I'm getting, our city does yard waste, free yard waste drop off, and so if it's they mulch all the branches and stuff, and then they make a huge compost pile with the leaves. I didn't bother with leaves this year. I've done it in the past, but this year I just got 2 truckloads, which I have in another video of my truck unloader, but 2 loads of this mulch, wood mulch. I do not put them around my house because it's not treated, and I do not need termites at my house. I have wood siding, which, I mean, houses are made of wood anyway, but what I'm doing with the wood mulch is putting it in the paths, you might have noticed, and it kind of helps just keep the walkway nice. I mean, golly guys, I've spent the last 6 to 8 weeks weeding and planting, and I would like to get this area for the potatoes done, and I am so over weeding and planting. But as you can see, the weeds are coming back already, where this was all nice and beautiful and weeded, like that new fresh area, and they just keep coming back. But anyway, my point with the wood chips pile is I am putting it in the paths, and then this year I decided to start doing, when I go through and I'm weeding, I'm pulling the weeds out of the path and then taking the composted wood chips, because they're pretty broken down after a year, and I'm scooping them up onto my beds so that I can put fresh mulch down, because I don't need good soil in the paths underneath all that stuff. I need the good soil right now in my beds. So I'm hoping that'll help add to the just really nice loose soil on top, because this is really rough clay soil here, and I want to build it up. I am determined to make no dig work, even though I am fighting weeds like crazy. I technically, to do no dig, I think they encourage to put down cardboard or biodegradable materials that's thick and keeps the weeds down, and buy dirt and bring it in. But I mean, with this size of garden, I was not willing to truck in that much dirt, so I'm slowly building my own dirt, and with the wood chips letting them break down. And I think I'd like to start using wood chip mulch on my rows. This year I was able to take compost and add it to about 6 or 8 rows of mine to start putting the nutrients back in the soil, because plants take the nutrients out, you need to put it back in. And I'm not going to do it with Miracle-Gro. That's not organic gardening. I'm trying to create an environment where the plants by themselves are healthy. That video I was talking about, Roots and Refuge, she said after years of organic gardening, they just moved a year ago, but that final year they were there, she said there were no pests. Like, she did not need to turn to organic pest control sprays and stuff, because the plants and the soil was just so healthy that there just weren't pests. And I'm like, oh, this gives me hope. So this is summer number 4, and here's the spring, my spring garden, and I will hopefully remember to film another video come later this year when the tomatoes are huge and filling the trellises, and the beans, and it's time to harvest the garlic, and you can see the scapes, and which those seed pods, on garlic, if you cut them early, you cut the tip off where the seed pod is, but the stem is delicious stir-fried with some salt, and so good. It's a Chinese dish. So anyway, that is my garden right now, and hopefully this has encouraged and inspired you that you can get out and garden. Yes, I spend a lot of time weeding, but if you container garden or have a small raised bed, I think your weeds will be way less than mine, and you can have your free time to do other things like swim in your pool. Isn't that fancy? So anyway, just life out here in the country. But thanks for joining me. Get out there, get in the dirt, grow something this year, even if it's in a pot. And if you haven't already and you want to see more videos like mine, hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Hit like to tell me and the YouTube algorithm that videos like this are wanted. And I will see you in the next video.